We're out here with this 6-liter LS. You can hear how quiet and smooth it is. It's about 85 degrees today, so that Camaro SS fan's barely running. You can see that this is our new standard. We got the Motec battery tray, K&N filter, the upper valance. You're getting the SS fan. Down here you can see our new quad header radiator and a large transmission cooler. Now if you look closely at that radiator core, which you really can't see, there's 4 headers supporting those tubes, not just 2. It does look like this customer has the JK8 booster, which is fine, we support that. Guys, this is really important, the battery. One, you don't want to run an AGM in our swaps, and 2, make these battery cables clean. I can't tell you what a nightmare they are sometimes, especially with dual batteries. Make sure they're clean and tight. We use these bus bar battery terminals to give you more places to put stuff. But I see guys stacking up wires, ring eyelets on the bolt that holds the terminal on, and it gets loose and falls off. And you really got to have good ground and power distribution, otherwise you're going to have issues. We've been running this coolant bottle for, well, almost 10 years. This one's a little bit bigger. We went to a larger capacity. This morning we're in a 6-liter LS 6-speed in an early JK. This is a combination we've been doing for about a decade. It's one of the most tried and true engine conversions out there because the 6-liter LS is about as bulletproof as you can get. This is what I considered one of the best value swaps because the 6-liter is quite a powerful engine and the cost of the swap was relatively low compared to the other swaps out there. The last couple of weeks I've had phone conversations with guys that want conversions, but they're really not sure which way to go. Some of them just found out about us because, as most of you know, we don't advertise. We have a YouTube channel, but we are staying very busy without any advertisement, and that's been true for the last 10 years. So the demand for our product has been high, even though the marketing has been low. So they find out about us and they call and they say, hey, do I want to do an LS? Do I want to do an LT? Should I do it myself? Well, all that is contingent on variables, because while all of us may want the biggest and the best, some of us can't afford it. And even myself, I know my limits. I know I don't need a fire-breathing supercharged LT4 in my personal JK. I haul my family around in that JK, and honestly a 5.3 LT is enough. I've got a 6.2 LS, and that's actually more than I need. I would be happy with a 6.0 or even a 5.3 LT. Like I said, I probably wouldn't go with an LS 5.3 just because I'm running 37-inch tires. I have a house in northern Utah, and there's a lot of mountain grades, so the 5.3 LS doesn't make a good candidate for that Jeep. Now, I did have a Jeep with 32-inch tires that had no armor, no suspension mods, nothing, and the 5.3 LS was fantastic. That Jeep got over 200,000 miles put on it, and that engine still doesn't burn a drop of oil. So let's cover a couple of the basics. What is your budget? Now, unfortunately, the game has changed. It used to be that we could do swaps like this 6-liter for under $20,000. I think our 6-liter swap used to start at $15,999. And then, of course, you had options, and this is something that we should look at. Options sometimes aren't options. Sometimes you need it, like heavy-duty cooling. Yeah, if you live in the Great White North, you got 32-inch tires, you got nothing blocking your grill, stock radiator is going to be fine. But we've had a couple of Jeeps come here from the East Coast that were done by another company, and they had LS3s in them with stock radiators and fans, and it just doesn't hack it. Our kits now are all including the SS fan. The SS fan is very powerful. It's a pulse width modulated, electronically speed controlled, brushless, sealed fan, and it has a 19-inch blade. It's got a pancake style motor, so it has a lot of torque. So it pulls that 19-inch blade at low speed and pulls a lot of air. We used to support the Pentastar fan, but we're going to drop support for that because the Pentastar fan is kind of an anomaly in the engine conversion world. It's a 10 hertz negative coefficient pulse width operated fan. It's not a bad fan, but to control it is very goofy. Chrysler had problems controlling it. Of course, you want the heavy duty radiator. That's going to give you a mount for the SS fan. So we're going to be including the heavy duty radiator in our kits from now on too. And you're seeing the price of our kits go up a bit, but you're also getting a lot more stuff. So at the end of the day, it's actually a better value. If you had bought all the options a la carte previously, the price is very similar. If not, you're actually saving a little bit of money. So the kit now is going to include the SS fan, our all aluminum quad header radiator, which is specifically designed for the JK, the upper valance for your radiator. We're also throwing in the Motec battery tray. The LT guys, you're going to get HP tuners. So you're getting a lot of stuff in this new package. And what it's come down to is we realized that if you want to do this right, you can't nickel and dime it. I've been doing JKs for over a decade and engine conversions for almost 4 decades, and you don't want to take any shortcuts. So we're going to include all that stuff in the kit and in our in-house builds. Now there is something to be said for the budget build, the guy that wants to save a lot of money and try to do a build for under $10,000, and that's going to be tough. And it's not because of our kit or the labor, it's because just the price of everything has been going up. The price of the LS engines has gone up, the price of the transmissions has gone up, pretty much all the parts across the board from both GM and Chrysler have gone up. And I'm going to say, if you want to get a full turnkey in-house build done properly with the right options, be willing to spend $20,000 minimum. And that's going to be for something like an LS 5.3. You're going to be getting a used engine and transmission. There's nothing wrong with them. We've been doing these conversions for many, many years. So the difference really is just the cost. There is some hope for you budget-minded guys. The LT 5.3 is a fantastic engine. The LT 5.3 performs very similar to the engine I'm driving right now, even though this is a 6-liter. The LT 5.3 can run the 8 and the 10 speed. I just drove 2 LT 5.3. One was an 8 speed, one was a 10 speed to Salt Lake from Vegas. And all I can tell you, it's a dream. These engines can run on regular gas, but I did some experimenting and I did find you want to run the higher grade fuel. By running the higher grade fuel, I got better gas mileage and the performance was better, less spark knob. Now it does give you the option of running on a lower grade fuel, but I was much happier with the premium because that little 5.3 really performed well. Even on some of the long grades, one Jeep, I think both had 37s, there was no stress at all. The engine might have shifted from 8th to 7th or 10th to 9th, but that was it. It was extremely low stress. All right, so let's get back to this. What do you want to do? Establish your budget. If you're not willing to spend 20 grand, then you're probably going to have to do it yourself. And here's my advice on that. If you are a mechanic, if you have tools, you have a garage, you've done conversions before, by all means do this swap. If you're doing it to save money, I probably would say don't do that. Because most guys that want to just save money, they're working hard, and you could probably make more money working a little bit harder and then paying somebody else to do the swap. Because at the end of the day, the labor on these swaps is about $5,000 or $6,000. So what is $5,000 or $6,000 worth to you? If you're going to put 100 hours into a swap, you can do the math on that. Recently, we eliminated fabrication from our swap. You don't have to cut, weld, drill. So it is a bolt-in swap, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I will say that the LT is a more complex swap than the LS. It's just a more complex engine, and that's all there is to it. Is it really hard? No. If you've done engine conversions before, it's something that you can do. But do you want to save that $5,000 and spend weeks, maybe months in your garage doing an engine conversion? The opportunity cost of doing the engine conversion means that you're not doing something else. If you enjoy this as a hobby, if you're retired, you want to do it for fun, you want to do it with your grandson, you want to do it for a school project, those are all valid reasons to do this swap in your garage. If you're trying to save a buck and do the swap as cheap as possible, ask yourself, can I do the swap? Do I have the proper equipment? And the proper equipment isn't just going to be screwdrivers and hammers. It's going to be a scan tool. You got to have a proper scan tool if you're going to do an engine conversion. In fact, you got to have a proper scan tool if you do anything to a vehicle. I don't care if it's a stock vehicle and you put an air intake on it. So make sure you have the right tools and then establish your budget. I always tell my customers, use new quality parts. Delphi is good. Nip and Denso on the O2 sensors, ND. There's good quality parts and there's bad quality parts. What you don't want to use is the cheap bottom of the line O'Reilly or AutoZone parts. Now it doesn't mean that they don't have a higher or a better line, but some of the parts from Borg Warner and Duralast, especially like batteries, you don't want to use that stuff in your Jeep. Now which engine do you get? Go back and look in the videos. There's a whole line of LS's, and then of course there's the LT. But I will say this, the 5.3 LT is really becoming one of my favorite engines. Powerful engine, smooth, very economical. We just bought a bunch of crate 5.3 LTs at a good price, which we're going to pass on to you because GM is cranking them out, and when they're in production, the supply is up, and supply and demand economics kick in there. With the LSs are getting long in the tooth. They haven't been manufactured for a long time, and the ones that are being manufactured, like the LS3, are getting harder and harder to find and more expensive. So we're doing a fundamental shift over to the LT, and there is no downside to it. They're awesome engines and transmissions, and the fact is they're getting less costly for us than the LS. I get a lot of calls on what things cost, and let me kind of run it down quick. We basically go from about 20 to 30,000 on our in-house builds. This isn't going to include LT5s and cammed engines and all that. But the LS 5.3 is going to be the least costly swap. running around $20,000. That includes a used engine and transmission. The 6.0 is one step up, and you're going to be in the low 20s, 22, 23, right in there. Again, with a low mileage engine. We were doing that swap with new engines just a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, but since GM dropped the LS 6.0 production, we can't do that anymore. The LT 5.3 is also going to run in the low to mid 20s, which I think is the best value. You're future proof, plenty of power. You get the 8 and 10 speed transmission, all new parts, just the best value swap in my opinion out today, and that includes everything, including Hemis. Then you got the LS3, you're going to be in the mid 20s. That's going to be a new crate GM motor with a low mileage transmission. LS3 we all know is a fantastic engine, 430 to 450 horsepower, great drivability, great power, great torque. A lot of you guys love it. It still is available. We move up from there, we're going to go right up to the LT1. Now, we did support the LED6 for the longest time, but we're kind of getting out of it for a couple of reasons, and we still can support it. But the LED6 is not available new right now. We were buying them used because the LT1s were just extremely expensive. But now that the LT1 has dropped and dropped and dropped in price, we can buy new LT1s for not much more than we were paying for used LED6s. That and the fact that the LED6 is the largest engine that we support, it has a pretty massive intake on it, means that it's hard to fit, especially in the earlier JKs. There is an easy fix for that, and that is just switch over to the LT1 intake. And the LT1 intake is I don't notice that much of a difference. Guys say, oh, I'm going to lose torque, I'm going to lose power. These things have so much torque and power, you're never going to need more. The LT2 intake is also, we're going to be testing it. One of the things about the LT2 intake, though, is it doesn't have a vacuum port for the brakes. The LED6 and the LED3 run a vacuum pump on the side of the engine. And I like that because as long as the engine is turning, you got brakes. The LT1 uses intake manifold vacuum, which of course is more convenient. And what we have done sometimes, if a guy has like a PSC big bore box, is we can take off the vacuum pump, put on an LT1 intake. Now we have brake booster vacuum. So we're going to skip over the LED6, and we do support the kit if you guys get a smoking deal on an LED6. But we're going to jump right up to the LT1, and the LT1 is going to run about 30 to 31,000. Of course, there's going to probably be a few little things, drive shafts and things, and it's going to push it up to the $31,000, $32,000 range. But as I said in my previous video, you can go back and look at the variables, but not all Jeeps are the same. The 15 and later Jeeps, they run a different Freon, which isn't a problem, but unlocking the modules is. Chrysler has locked down the 15 controllers, so we have to send them out and get them unlocked, and there's various things like that. Some of you guys have manuals and you want to convert over to automatic, which isn't a problem, but then of course we got to buy the shifter and all the parts, so there's going to be some variables in the final price. But the LT1 is going to include a new LT1 engine, new 8 or 10 speed, your choice. And if you ask me which one to go with, that's going to be a really hard decision. I drive them both. I think they're both great transmissions. Again, the 8 speed is a little bit stronger, so if you're going to go out and drive like a gorilla, get the 8 speed. If you want slightly more refinement, get the 10 speed. So you're going to get the new crate LT1, the new 8 and 10 speed transmission. And let's not forget, guys, this swap is, in my opinion, a step above everything else. You've got the 11.5 to 1 compression, direct injection, continuous variable valve timing. There's just so much technology packed into the LT1 and the LED3. It's amazing that we're getting them at this cost. With the LT1 swap, of course, you're getting all the labor to install it. You're getting the Motec battery tray, the upper valance, a new AC condenser, because we go with a manual condenser, and a lot of the condensers that come in are plugged with bugs and debris anyway, so we like to change them out. You're getting an Aeroforce gauge. You're getting all the bells and whistles. Now, it's not going to include axles or drive shafts. Most of you guys already have upgraded drive shafts, which is fine. We send them over to Adams and they resize them, and that costs a lot less than building new shafts. The standard cost for our shafts, and I'll explain what we use, is about $1,200, and we're using a 1350 rear CV. That includes Spicer, all American components, fully built, balanced, tested by Adams here in town. Then the front, we're using a 1310 CV with a 1350 lower joint. And the reason we do that is because the 1350 CV is larger, and when your axle is stuffed all the way up, it drives the axle over to the passenger side, and that can put the CV into the transmission. And that's not just a problem with our conversion, that's a problem with Hemis and stock JKs too. That's why you see some ripped boots on the R Zeppa shafts. So we put the 1310 CV on there. Guys say they're good for 800 horsepower. They're not good for 800 horsepower in my opinion, but they're plenty strong for what we do. This video is dragging on, and I'm going to say one final thing. We've had a couple of Jeeps come in that they had some miles on them, and they came in with problems like death wobble, current draws, and just things that we have to figure out. So factor that in. If you know your Jeep has a problem, if you know you hit a bump and it goes into death wobble, or the steering wheel is shaking, if you know that the battery goes dead over a couple of days, if you went to a stereo shop and had an almighty alarm installed and sometimes it doesn't crank, let us know that up front, because then we're going to have to fight all those issues. And the less issues we have to fight, the quicker we can do your swap, and the least costly we can do your swap. So we're going to take this JK up to the mountain, and we'll be back really soon.